Hi, everybody. Don't think anybody is here yet, so wait a second, see if some people show up. Feel free to leave in the comments if you are here. Um, you might watch the. Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. I pretty clearly am a computer genius and exited out of the wrong thing. Thanks so much for coming to join us. This should be fun. We've got an hour to go before the deadline starts. First of all, a lot of you are here because you're fans of the Seattle Mariners, and I appreciate that. Um, let's talk about the trade because, as some of you know, most of you know, I recap every single Seattle Mariner baseball game, and I did not talk about the trade other than the fact that I said I understood it, but I didn't like it. But let's break it down now. So, Paul Sewald goes to the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think everybody knows what they're getting in Paul Sewald, right? A guy whose fastball is an elite in terms of mile per hour, but has so much carry and such good spin rates. I think even I believe it was Christian Walker was talking about it after the trade and was like, he's so tough to hit because he's so consistently getting those high spin rates. He has a really good slider as well. Um, yeah, that's a good pitcher. That is a nice pickup. It was weird to see, by the way, that Andrew Chafin is moving on from Arizona. It's kind of a weird little buy sell thing. But you want to hear about the Mariners' return, right? So let's start with the major leaguer. Josh Rojas has been bad this year, has not shown any power. Hasn't shown a lot of power anyway. Hi, everybody. I see a couple of comments now. That's nice to see. Uh, a perfectly cromulent utility infielder. One that I think the more I think about it was more Arizona saying, "Hey, uh, we need you to take a little bit of salary in this deal because Arizona's not a big spender." Now, I'm not saying that the Mariners didn't want Josh Rojas. I just wonder if that was maybe part of the condition of taking him. I think he probably will play some second base for you this year, mainly because Colton Wong and Jose Caballero just haven't gotten it done, especially late for Caballero. Great story, but just he's a utility guy. He's not the guy you want starting. Not necessarily do I want Josh Rojas starting either, but if you put them all in a line right now and you said pick one to start for you at second base, it's Josh Rojas. That's the guy that I would be taking because I think he's the better defender, provides some wheels. He has had some success. He was a really good player a couple of years ago who looked like he was kind of on the rise. But he's better served as that utility guy. All right, the good guys. Dominic Canzone. So I want to apologize first of all that when I talked on the radio with Ian Fredess yesterday, I did get Canzone and Dominic Fletcher a little confused, which is one of the reasons why I talked up Canzone's defense. That's the biggest concern with Canzone. He's not a good defender, not a good defender at all. But he has hit. I think he's got a shot to hit for some pop, chance to hit for some average, a pretty good approach at the plate. I think he could be a starting outfielder. I think it would be better if he was a bench guy, a guy who played at first base and the outfield and some designated hitter. That would be the ideal role for him. Uh, as Dylan points out, Rojas is not Colton Wong, and that's a win for everyone not named Colton Wong. Well said. And real quick, I wanted to get this comment. You should get Nathan Bishop on here. Absolutely not. Never, ever, ever. I talked to that guy enough. I'm just kidding. I love you, Nathan. Uh, solid return. A guy that I'm probably ranking 11th or 12th in the system. Not great, but think he can help you now and help you in the long term as well. Be curious to see what they do. Um, really interesting situation there, just because the Mariners do not have a great option in left field right now. With all due respect to Kid Marlowe, they don't have the exact answer that they want. Marlowe's look good. I think that everybody who's been listening to me on my own knows that I've been impressed with what he's done. But I do have some question marks about whether or not he's a long-term answer. I have some long-term questions about Canzone as well, but I think they're going to give him that shot. The reason to be excited about this trade is Ryan Bliss. I am way high on Ryan Bliss, probably way higher than the industry. In fact, if I was doing a list right now, I would really consider making Ryan Bliss the top prospect in the system. And that may sound like extreme hyperbole, but I'm a big fan. I think he's got a double plus hit tool. I think he has some sneaky pop for a guy who is 5'6". The power numbers that he put up in Amarillo are a little misleading because that park is very friendly, but he handled himself quite fine in on the road as well too. I'm a big fan of him. He's a really good defender. I think he's an answer for you next year. He's the reason, for those of you who did listen to me talk to Ian Furness on the radio. And by the way, I have my phone on not silent, and there's a reason for that. There's a good chance that you're going to hear me talk if the Mariners make a trade. You're going to hear me talk on the radio. I'll put it on speakerphone so you guys can listen to me do that. That'll be interesting. I don't know if anyone's ever done a YouTube / a radio hit at the same time. I'm sure someone has. But I'm a big fan of Bliss. A big fan. I think that he has a chance to be their starting second baseman. I think he has a chance to be their leadoff hitter someday. The industry's a little torn on him. I will say a lot of you pointed out that, he's ranked 29th according to MLB.com, and they do a great job. But keep in mind, a lot of those lists are based on what they were prior to the year. A lot of development happens. Ryan Bliss was a second round pick. It's not like he's a complete unknown. He was like the 56th pick, but he didn't look great in those first few professional settings. Made a big jump this year. The reason why this guy was invited to the Futures game for sure. Now, we have seen some not great prospects go to the Futures game, but Ryan Bliss was deserving of getting that promotion. Absolutely was deserving of promotion. Is promotion technically? Yeah, you're promoting the player that way, but you're not necessarily promoting the player. I don't think we'll see Bliss in 2023 for the Mariners, but a good chance to help. All that being said, I did not like this deal. I would have loved this deal on November 1st of 2023 or November 1st of 2024 or November 1st of 2022 even. That's what I actually mean, 22 or 23. Because I think this just sends the wrong message. You're in contention. Paul Sewald is not only a great pitcher, he's also one of the most popular guys in the clubhouse. And it's a perfectly explainable value deal. It's something that you can you make that deal in November and you go, all right, now we got to change these rules. It's completely different now. You're in this thing. You're more than in this thing. So to trade Paul Sewald, it's kind of an FU to the players. Even though I think they do get a smidgen, well, I don't know, better. They don't completely kick themselves in the you-know-what with this deal for 2023. But it's hard to say that they got better, both clubhouse-wise and internally. I hope that makes sense. Real quick, the A.J. Pollock deal. Okay. A.J. Pollock was one of my least favorite Mariners of all time. He did absolutely nothing. There was nothing that suggested to me that he's going to be better. You got to clear some 40-man room. You got to clear some 26, excuse me. I'll never get used to that, by the way. Man room, it's totally fine. It is totally fine. So I'm going to be doing a side thing here and look on Twitter, but I'm going to ask you guys, please let me know if any trades happen because it's very hard to do this. I do think this is interesting. Jeff Passan just came out and said that Eduardo Rodriguez invoked his 10-team no-trade clause to cancel a deal to the Dodgers. Wow. That's fascinating. Rodriguez would have been a huge upgrade there. He does have, it's worth pointing out, Rodriguez had some issues last year. He has absolutely every right to cancel that thing. But let's talk about some of the other big trades that happened because, as many of you are Mariner fans who are in here, let's talk about some of them because the division got better. The Max Scherzer deal for Luis Angel Acuna, I think that one is really interesting because the original report was a guy named Sebastian Walcott and Brock Porter going. And I was like, holy crap on a cracker. That is a haul for Max Scherzer. Now, they give up Luis Angel Acuna, who is a better prospect right now in terms of ranking than those guys. But I think it makes more sense because he is more of a high floor guy to me than a high ceiling guy. You hear the name Acuna, and I think maybe you think superstar, and he has a chance to be good. He has a chance to hit for average. Power is the question mark. Average, steal bases, score runs, play good defense, probably a center fielder for the Mets after that deal. I like it for both. I really like Max Scherzer. I think that the metrics suggest he's been better than the numbers suggest. And it's hard to argue with his track record. Absolute future Hall of Famer. Now, the Justin Verlander trade's a little more fresh. And to be honest with you, I kind of forgot what the return is. So let's just take a look. Hi, Steven. Thanks, everybody. This is awesome that so many of you have come out for this. This is going to be really fun. Hopefully, we have some Mariners stuff to talk about and some big moves to talk about. Okay, so they get Drew Gilbert, easily their top prospect in the system. A guy who should not have fallen as far as he did in the draft. I was stunned that he was a late first round pick because I thought he was a guy you could justify taking in the top dozen, maybe even higher. You know, financial stuff probably played a factor in this, but really, really, really good prospect and someone who's probably ranks third or fourth probably on the Mets list right now. And they also get Ryan Clifford, and Clifford has been really good in AAA. Not a five-tool guy, but I do think has a chance to be a contributor in a bunch of ways. Verlander has, I think he got off to a disappointing start. You know, he has the injury before the season. Doesn't exactly look like himself, but like watching the dude pitch lately, I think that's a massive get for Houston. And they needed the rotation help. And there's no question about it that you take a look at what the Rangers have done, the Astros have done, the Angels have done. I wonder how much that plays an effect on what Jerry Dipoto wants to do. You can't help it because all three of those guys have gotten anywhere from a little bit better to markedly better. And I think all three are close to markedly. Like you're getting the Rangers get an ace and a couple other nice little pieces too. The Jordan Montgomery trade was a very nice piece of business. Chris Stratton, a decent reliever. And then the Angels, you know, I love what they did without giving up their best prospects. Edgar Caro's a good prospect. He's not their catcher of the future. Logan O'Hoppe is. And there's a lot of risk with Caro. I loved that move. I love that they're going for it. It's so much more fun to see this than to see standing pat and considering trades for the greatest baseball player of our generation. You know what I mean? Like, this is just so much more fun to see, unless you're a fan of the Seattle Mariners, like a lot of us are, because those teams are better. I still think the Mariners should make a move to go for it this year. Saw something that this is interesting. Saw something that Jake Shiner didn't fly with Tacoma. France trade possibly coming. Certainly possible. I've heard there's a lot of smoke with that. There is a lot of smoke with Ty France being moved. There's no guarantees. I have no sources telling me that it's imminent or anything along those lines, but there's enough smoke there that it's possible, and Shiner would make sense as a call-up. Why not see what he can do, because he has crushed AAA pitching. I think he's more of a quad A player, but it's worth a look. It can't hurt you to give you a look. I'd rather have him than, Sam Haggerty or Dylan Moore playing first base or something along those lines. Like that's not ideal. By the way, you will see a fly in these shots. One just landed on my finger. It's driving me absolutely insane. I keep a clean house, dang it. But sometimes those flies, especially where I live near a lake, they just can't help it. Let's see. Any other questions? I think just a QO for T.O. would be good enough. I have a hard time wanting to resign him with the ballpark we play in. Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm not going long-term with him. It's not so much the ballpark, it's what he is. He's a flawed defensive player, to say the least. The metrics say he's been better. I disagree. The eye test of me watching Teoscar Hernandez over the last couple of years, including mostly this year, and that's all that matters. You don't carry over your defensive metrics from the year after. It's the reputation maybe hurts him a little bit, but I don't think he's a great defensive player. He does not track the baseball well. He makes some silly gaffes. We saw a huge one the other day. Saw some huge ones earlier in the season. He also has some spectacular plays too. But I would absolutely be looking at a 1-year deal for Teoscar Hernandez. And if he plays well during that, then you can talk about that 2-3 year after that. Because of the way the market is set right now, I think Teoscar Hernandez, assuming he just doesn't crater over the second half, is looking at a multiple year deal. I really think that Teoscar Hernandez is going to get the bag, and good for him. He deserves it based on what he's done over the last few years. What other trades have happened that we can talk about while we're waiting for stuff to happen? Let's take a look. I didn't plan anything out, which is how for a lot of you will be absolutely no surprise. Interesting trade happened right before I went on. Jake Burger is heading to the Marlins for Jake Eder. I'm really surprised that the Marlins are willing to give up a prospect like Eder. Now, has had some health issues, but when he's at his best, like his minor league numbers are phenomenal. I think he has a chance to be a mid-rotation starter or better. If not, I could see him being a really good reliever. Really, really, really good reliever. I think they'll give him every chance to start, though, and they should. I like what the White Sox have done. Now, I think it's sad what the White Sox have done because a couple of years ago, this was looking like a dynasty is the wrong term, but like a perennial World Series contender with what they had in their rotation and their young bats. And now they're 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag. And we're talking about a rebuild for sure. Wish Tim Anderson could get dealt. That would be something that I would like to see for Tim Anderson and honestly for the White Sox as well. He doesn't really make sense for me. Of course, they can deal him at the deadline, or excuse me, they could deal him during the winter, but it just doesn't really make sense to have Tim Anderson on your roster at this point. It's not a good thing. As Dylan points out, the Angels and Astros farm sisters are rough years for good years. Yeah. Well, I was going to mention this too with the trade. The Astros farm system in particular, after this trade, might be the worst in baseball. It's atrocious. There's so little impact that you're getting. Even with Gilbert and Clifford, this was not a great group. But now you take those two guys away. Ooh, boy, that is a rough group. Guys, feel free to leave any comments, like question marks about prospects that have been dealt, anything. Just like real quick, do you think we make any more moves in the next hour before the deadline? I do think that we'll see a Seattle Mariner move announced real quick. Just as a reminder, 3:00 may be the deadline, but you're going to hear moves after that. You'll see moves that happen even after we end this chat. I plan to go till about 3:15 or something like that. But just because it's 3:00 doesn't mean you're not going to hear a move made. These things take time. They often are a last minute thing and they don't get leaked, especially with a team like Atlanta, who just doesn't get leaked. They don't. They make those trades and it's like, oh, by the way, this happened. Real quick, I am going to link that we are doing this chat to the good people of YouTube, just so that they know. Should we say, guys, we're live talking about the deadline. YouTube, come on in. It's fun. Okay, there we go. I tried to do that with no dead silence, but that's Trey Mancini DFA'd. Is he destined to be our new AJ Pollock? I will say Trey Mancini would make some sense as a buy low candidate if you don't want to do Shiner. Definitely would make some sense. It's not worked out in Chicago. Didn't really work out in Houston after that trade, but he has a history of success. And I'll be honest with you, I'm just a big Trey Mancini fan as a person. I'd love to see him get a shot in Seattle. He was someone I would have liked to have seen them go after at the last deadline. I do have a personal connection, kind of, in that I used to work with his wife, one of the nicest people in the world, Sarah Mancini, formerly Sarah Perlman. So I'm a little biased there. But I think Trey Mancini could make some sense there. The difference, of course, between Pollock is, like, Pollock was a flawed defensive player, but at least you could he had the wheels to go get some things. You know what I mean? Whereas Mancini, it's really first base DH. Probably makes more sense if they actually do move Ty France. Real quick on the move they made today, which I think everybody had a heart attack over because you read it and our Robert Murray, who is fantastic and breaks a lot of this stuff and doesn't get probably enough credit for breaking as much as he does, announced that the Mariners got Eduardo Bizzardo, which is just a perfect name, from the Orioles for Logan Reinhart. And I know that any of you looking at these things, saw Baltimore Orioles and Logan and absolutely flipped out because I know I did. I know I did. I didn't. All I saw was Logan, Baltimore Orioles, and I was like, especially because it came out 5 minutes after John Morosi reported that the Mariners are not shopping Logan Gilbert, which is good. They shouldn't be shopping Logan Gilbert. Logan Gilbert does not make sense as a trade candidate to me. Now, you want to explore trading him in the offseason? Sure. But I don't think if you trade Logan Gilbert, the fit that I will throw. The fit that I will throw, because it's just not something that I think makes sense right now. No, and it would infuriate this clubhouse, and justifiably so. But Bizzardo has a chance to be a up and down reliever at best. I understand why they're giving him a shot. He's put up good minor league numbers, bounced around, and Logan Reinhart's nothing. I doubt we're talking about Logan Reinhart in a while. Go ahead and screenshot that and tell everybody that when Logan Reinhart is winning his 6th MVP, I said he was absolutely nothing. Are the deals for Teoscar and Ty France just not good? I think it's more a case of there is enough interest in those dudes that you are waiting until that last minute. Who is going to end up giving you the best offer? Because Mariners are in no rush. They have another 39 minutes. I'm sure they've been. I know Minnesota's super interested. Philadelphia was showing some interest. A whole bunch of places really like that option. I think Philadelphia and Minnesota both like the idea of France and Teoscar because they're right-handed, and Minnesota particularly is so left-handed. And I also like the idea of Minnesota as a trade partner for those guys because I think that's one of the teams, and I mentioned this on Twitter, that's one of the teams that you can get better this year even, and also, deal with the fact that those guys aren't long-term parts of your program. I think at this point, we kind of have to admit that Ty France probably isn't a long-term part of the Seattle Mariners. That's really disappointing, but it's the reality of the situation. As good as he was in 2020, 2021, and most of 2022, the struggles that he had at the end of 2022 have carried over and then some in 2023. He's not the young player that I think some people picture him as. He's been a very good defensive first baseman, which is nice, but it's not enough. Evan White, hello. I think that if you can get good stuff for Ty France, you do it. You don't just trade him for the sake of trading him, because all due respect to Jake Scheiner, not better than Evan White, or goodness gracious, deserve that Freudian slip, not better than Ty France. Not in my personal opinion. Don't mind giving him a look if they do deal him, but I do think that is something you have to consider for sure. But yeah, to answer that question, I don't think that the deals aren't good. I just think Dipoto, Hollander just really want to make sure they get the very best return, assuming they are moving the guy. Who's going to give up the farm for Luis Roberts? Oh, that would be so fun. It'd stink if you're a White Sox fan. There's so many teams that would make sense there. Seattle would make sense there. You talk about, everybody thinks that you have to do one or the other, that you have to make trades to help you in the future or trades to help you now. I don't agree with that. My buddy Kevin Goldstein, he likes to say that if you do both, you're just going halfway towards each, and that's not ideal. I kind of get that, but I think there are enough talented general managers and enough talented folks in front offices that you can do both. You can go and get both. My guess is Luis Robert does not get traded today. I'm not 100% sure that we won't see a Cease deal. And again, guys, please point out any deals because I don't have the Twitter app right away from me. But yeah, please let me know if we see it. Excuse me. Do you think that the Grichuk and Cron deal was one the Mariners should have gone after more? Yeah, I think that would have made a ton of sense. Crone can be that first base / DH. I know the numbers aren't great, especially outside of Colorado, but he's had success and it wouldn't have cost you much. And Ronald Grichuk, same thing. Same type of thing. He is kind of almost the rich man's version of AJ Pollock. I would have loved to have seen that deal, and the Mariners easily could have matched it. Easily. Just doesn't sound like they're interested in that type of thing, which is disappointing because both those guys could have made you better. Both those guys could have made you better without destroying the farm system. Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. That was a really good cognizant point there, my friend. The Brewers gave up nothing for Conhai yesterday. That one was frustrating. Yeah, absolutely. Not only is he one of my favorite people, but he's a good player, especially against left-handers, man. To have that option, to have that lefty, I know that's what AJ Pollock was supposed to be. He's not. So to replace him with a guy like Kana for a very low price would have been awesome. And talk about a great clubhouse dude too. Super popular. I would have loved to have seen that. That's a really, really good point. I would have absolutely have loved to have seen that. All right. Let's take a look at the old Twitter. See if I have any DMs that. Nope. Very interesting. Colton Wong saying goodbye to teammates in the clubhouse. Oh boy. What could this mean? That's from everybody's friend Ryan Divish, as my friend Connor here points out. Interesting. I'm guessing designated for assignment. I can't imagine that he's dealt in something unless it's a cost thing. But look, let's just talk about Colton Wong for a second, then I'll get to a couple of your questions here. I know that everybody has grown quite, whatever the opposite of smitten is with Colton Wong, and justifiably so. In terms of production, I don't know if there's been a worse Mariner when you combine the fact that he's had previous success. I hope people don't go too crazy and send people Colton Wong's stupid things like "we hate you," "good riddance to you," because guys, Colton Wong tried. I'll tell you that much. Colton Wong tried. He just wasn't good enough. And to say he wasn't good enough is an understatement. But who you should be mad at is the Seattle Mariner front office for making that the middle infield upgrade. Not Colton Wong's fault there. Now, look, Colton Wong should have played better. I'm not saying build a statue, put it next to Griffey because he tried. He was terrible, a terrible baseball player. And the fact he lasted as long in Seattle is pathetic. But let's not go crazy. Let's not do silly things and say, invade Colton Wong's social media accounts and tell him how much we hate him. He knows he stunk. That being said, I am not sad to see him go whatsoever. Cardinals fan here. Rumors between the M's for Cardinals bats. Prospects have simmered down. Was there ever any possible match? Yeah, I think so. It was mostly about when things were looking so heinous for the Mariners that it would have made more sense to deal Logan Gilbert. I think that there would have absolutely been a matchup there. Or like a Brian Wu for an outfielder type of move. I heard a lot of that type of stuff. I think that there was a reason for the smoke that attached to that fire. I haven't heard a lot of it lately. I did hear from one person that the Mariners were kind of interested in Jack Flaherty as being one of their rotation guys at the back end. Haven't heard it lately, but I have heard that mentioned before. So there was some smoke there as well. But I think it was mostly about the Cardinals really like Logan Gilbert. I think that'll be something that gets discussed in the offseason. I'll say this, it's going to be a hot take that could probably blow up in my tuchus. Let's say face instead of tuchus. I will guess that Logan Gilbert is traded in the offseason. I will guess that Logan Gilbert plays for a different team in 2023. That's just my guess, or 2024, excuse me. That's just my guess. But there was absolutely smoke to those fires. The Mariners were talking an awful lot. Yeah, and as many of you pointed out, it's probably a DFA thing. They need to make room for Rojas and Canzone. Wong guaranteed to sign a minimum contract and 280 down the stretch. He's going to hit 280. He's going to get on at a 350 clip. He's going to all of a sudden start stealing bases again, and he's going to look like the Colton Wong, which was one of the best defensive second basemen in baseball. I've lived this nightmare before, folks. It's absolutely going to happen, and I won't be sad if it happens because I root for people, and I hope Colton Wong is better. I will also be very sad that it happens for the Seattle Mariners because how many times have we seen this, folks? It happens for a lot of teams. We're just, happen to be in there. Rangers talking about Austin Hedges per Heyman. That makes some sense. Oh, Rangers get Austin Hedges. Austin Hedges is an awful offensive player, but a really good defender and something they needed to upgrade with the Jonah Heim injury. I think that's a nice little thing. I'm guessing the return here is not going to be exorbitant. But yeah, that makes an awful lot of sense. They're getting better. They're getting better. I love what Texas has done. As somebody points out, Austin, Texas. That's funny. Austin Hedges, Austin, Texas. Very funny. Yeah, it really looks like this is a designated for assignment thing, which isn't, again, it can't be less surprising. I guess the only reason I'm a little surprised is it means the Mariners are eating some cash, because they are not known for doing that. Who is a starter that you expect Seattle to trade for today? This is a tough question. I've been thinking about it. Nobody really pops to mind. I think it's going to be a surprise type of thing. Flaherty makes a lot of sense to me. Except for I wonder if the Cardinals want like a decent return for Flaherty because they do believe that they may be able to re-sign him. Everything I've heard suggests that he wants to play on the best coast. From there, worth pointing out that Flaherty was a two-way player at Harvard Westlake. It's still crazy to me that I got to watch Jack Flaherty, Lucas Giolito, and Max Fried in the same high school. That's at the same time. That was absolutely nuts. Shout out to Harvard Westlake. But yeah, I do think that they will make a trade for a starter. I think in the next 28 minutes, you will hear that the Seattle Mariners have traded for a starting pitcher. If they aren't, it means that Emerson Hancock is somebody that we need to maybe need to roster. If you're a fantasy baseball player, because I do think that's the next logical option, right? It's not Darren McCann. There's no way it's Darren McCann. I don't see who else it could be. And Brian Wu has to be shut down. He is already almost double his career high in innings, and it's August 1st. There's got to be something happening there. It's possible that they could go sign somebody off the market, or maybe they go for with bullpen days every fifth day if they feel like they're not in this thing. But yeah. Canzone and Rojas in the Mariners clubhouse, do they play tonight? That's a really good question. Probably one of them will. I wouldn't be shocked if both are. Though they're certainly going to be added to the roster tonight if they're in the clubhouse today. So yeah, good chance that we'll get to see the two new Mariners, and we'll probably get to see Ryan Bliss make his Tacoma debut pretty soon as well. So that's fun. Wish that it wasn't happening. Wish Paul Sewald was still a part of this team. But yeah, that is definitely something to keep an eye on. Is Erasmo Ramirez still alive? That would be very funny to see. Absolutely funny to see Erasmo Ramirez back in Seattle. Somebody suggests maybe it's Colton Wong and Marco Gonzalez for Tyler O'Neill. That would be very funny. Also make me cry. a little bit. Tyler O'Neill was somebody that they were looking at not too long ago. I'll just tell you that. And yeah, as Brian points out, I'd expect Rojas at second base for sure. Somebody asks, how do you feel about the Scherzer and Verlander trades? I brought it up a little earlier, but I'll talk about it again. I like it for all four teams. Three. Mets are just one team. I think that the Rangers get a viable ace. I think that the Astros get a viable ace. But I also think the Mets get three really good prospects. Luis Angel Acuna is more high floor than high ceiling to me because I have some real question marks about the power. But hit for average, steal bases, can play center field, can play second base, can play shortstop if that's what they choose to do. Get out of here, Mr. Fly. He really wants to be there. If I get a Mike Pence situation where one of these things lands on my eye during my Ted line chat, I'm going to be really upset. Drew Gilbert is one of the more underrated outfield prospects in baseball, I think. I think it's crazy that he fell as far as he did. Wouldn't doubt if he is a starting outfielder for the Mets at this point next year. Not expecting him to come up this early. And then Ryan Clifford has put up fantastic numbers. Helped a little bit by where he's been playing, but I do think that's a nice return. I think the Mets did well. I think the Rangers did well. I think the Astros did well. Saw a lot of people talking about what is Stephen Cohen doing paying for these prospects? Why do you care what Stephen Cohen is paying for anything? That guy has more money than any deity you want to mention. He's going to be doing just fine. And if that's the cost of getting quality prospects, do it. Do it. Because here's the other thing. If you're not paying for them, it is you're not getting a lot. That we talked about this too. That Astro system is bad. It was bad before Gilbert and Clifford were traded. Now it's really bad. Are you recording this, Chris? Missed the first 30 minutes. That's okay, Bill. If you go to my YouTube page and you go to the live section of it, you will see that I've done 2 live shows, including this one. And you can scroll back into what I talked about before. I also think it's possible for you to rewind, but if you want to stay live, understand that. But yeah, that's a really good question. You can definitely view the replay by going to my live chat. I'll link that in Twitter. I know you're not a big Twitter guy, Bill, but I will definitely have that up and available for you. Really appreciate everybody's tuning in. 65 people. What the hell are you guys doing? Why are you all here? I thought we'd get a good amount of people, but I didn't expect that. Let's take a look. Good question while I'm scrolling through Twitter here. Do you expect Canzone to be our starting right fielder going into next year, or do they still need to upgrade that either today or in the offseason? I don't know. I don't think I would call him your starting right fielder. I think that if they aren't able to upgrade there, then he's going to get that shots to compete for it. I still think Kelnick's best position is right field. And assuming he's healthy, that would be my starting right fielder. I think he has a chance to compete for left field. I really hope the Mariners are aggressive, though, in free agency for lots of reasons, but especially because I think they have to upgrade there. That's a really good question. I think Canzone is good enough to compete for it, but I would prefer him as my bench bat. That nice little option off the bench who can provide some late inning heroics type of thing that you're hoping for. You know what I mean? Not necessarily a regular to me, but a high floor backup guy who has really crushed at AAA. May or may not have blocked out my work calendar for Dylan. You're the best. Thank you so much. Work is stupid. Like, it's really, really dumb. I cannot recommend enough not working. Just kidding, folks. I know we all got to pay that bills. Fascinated again by this vetoed trade between the Dodgers and the Tigers. Again, Eduardo Rodriguez traded, but used his 10-team no trade clause to block the trade. Hasn't announced why. I'm not going to speculate on anything, but it is worth pointing out that Eduardo Rodriguez had some stuff going on last year. Wonder if that plays a factor in it. Yeah, I'll be really curious to see what that return would have been. And, it's none of my business, but why he's turning that down, because it's at least curious. Certainly go to a better situation with the Dodgers than with the Tigers, even in that cesspool of a division. Here's a really good question. What are some of your personal Twitter followers for days like today and just for the general diehard baseball fan? Passan for sure. You got to have Passan. You got to have Rosenthal. You got to have Fine Sand. Fine Sand, I think, is underrated at this. Fine Sand breaks a lot of stuff. Definitely somebody that you got to have uh, on. Robert Murray, who we talked about, who broke the Jake Berger trade, I believe. Or we talked about one of them that he broke. Uh, Definitely underrated. Breaks a lot of stuff. Talks to a lot of agents. Certainly somebody that you want to have up. Um, Rosenthal, I think I mentioned. Um, Not so much Stark and Olney anymore. They don't really break a lot of stuff that used to be as a kid that my go-to, or Gammons, they're not really in that business anymore. But those are the big ones. Those are the absolute big ones, and especially Fine Sand and um Murray, two of the more underrated players. Heyman, is John Heyman your absolute least favorite? No, there's worse. I get frustrated by some of the takes. And if John, if you're watching this, love you, man. Sat next to you at a baseball game not that long ago. You don't remember it, but I did. It's kind of funny. The very first, while we're waiting for the something to happen with the Seattle Mariners, or somebody doing another big deal. The very first credentialed game I ever had was the Minnesota Futures game before the All-Star break. And to my left was Jeff Passan, and to my right was John Heyman. And I had to be in the booth for that game because I was doing a live chat for ESPN. So it was me and Eric Carabell doing a live chat. And to the left of me, I had Jeff Passan, and to the right of me, I have John Heyman. That's pretty crazy, folks. Like, for your very first ever credentialed major league game, you're sitting next to two of the very biggest names. It was pretty cool. I had a lot of fun. Neither one, if we're being honest, was particularly interested in the game that was happening in front of us, and that's fine. Futures game. The results aren't really that important. But yeah, that's Heyman's not my least favorite. Nightingale would be my least favorite. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for saying that. Tuning in from Querétaro. Is that how you say that? Querétaro, Mexico? Central Mexican Highlands. Wow. That's got to be a little interesting place. Never been to Mexico. Lived in San Diego. Never been to Mexico. How I pulled that off, I could not tell you. All right. Let's check these trade things. I'm also going to do a little link thing as well. Are you concerned about our young starting pitching arms? What can supplement shutting Wu down? I don't think anything can. I was thinking about this the other day. Somebody was asking, hey, and in fact, I just tried to I got a DM and I forgot to respond to it, but they were wondering, hey, could Wu be a reliever down the stretch? In that way, you mitigate the innings. I don't think so. It just wouldn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense to me. I think you're probably just shutting him down. Maybe you get a little extra out of him by having an opener work in front of him and you get a couple of 2 or 3 outings out of him. But I don't think you're just moving him to the bullpen. And it's why I think you have to make that type of trade. Rays and Brewers. Wait, did I have the wrong one? I did. Sorry. Rays and Brewers just traded 2 AAA guys. Nashville playing Durham, so they just trade Clubhouse. Those are always fun to see. There's been a ton of stuff kind of like that. I joked on Twitter, by the way, that this is the Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lopez trade deadline because it's just people getting back together with their exes. Like over and over again, we are seeing stuff like that. But those trades are so fun. It's also like, kind of heartbreaking because you got to leave the guys you just live with, basically travel with, especially in AAA. The amount of close contact those dudes have, it's amazing. And then you got to go play a game against them, either that day or the day after. It can be pretty hard. I mean, you just saw too, like Paul Sewald, his last appearance was against the Arizona Diamondbacks. They literally just left, and now he has to go into that stupid weather. It's the business, but yeah, I do like seeing the change clubhouse type of stuff. A fun story: a few weeks ago at the Futures game in Seattle, I got the cheapest tickets I could to the Futures game, and just went right down behind home plate next to the Scouts, Passan in my row. Heard many stories of people doing something like that. AJ, it's awesome, by the way. That's phenomenal that you got to go do that. that they so in past futures games, they have been very stringent about people going into that section because they wanted people to pay for those tickets. Apparently, Seattle was not as concerned because I heard my buddy Keith Law was able to walk down. I heard a few other people were able to just kind of get into that section. And it kind of made me mad because I paid for a very expensive ticket. Now, I had great seats. I was in the All Star Club. That was awesome. But if I had known I could have walked into the scouting section without problem, probably would have done that. Probably would have done that. Not trade related, but apparently Corbin Carroll offered for Canzone to stay with his parents until he finds housing in Seattle. Heartwarming and not surprising. Everybody I've talked to says that Corbin Carroll is just one of the great dudes. Just one of the great dudes with a great family. How he fell to the 17th pick or whatever it was in that draft. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. All right, let's see. Well, there's some big political news that I'm not going to get into because I'm certainly not going to have that debate during the trade deadline, but go look at something that just happened. They will not, and Bill, no, they will not trade Logan Gilbert today. Logan Gilbert will not be traded today. I can basically guarantee that if I'm not, and I think it's the right decision not to trade him. 15 minutes left, still no trades. How? Well, I think I'm starting to get a little more concerned. Again, we see stuff break after the deadline all the time, and I think the Mariners are waiting to the very last minute to make some deals. But the closer you get, the more you have to worry about this stuff, right? The closer you get, the more you have to wonder what the heck is going on. Because there was just so much smoke with the Teoscar deal. There was so much smoke about adding a starting pitcher, even if it's not going to be a great one. Let me go into my list. And I am going to go ahead and link this again, if you guys don't mind. Of course you don't mind. You're good people. Let's take a look. Still chatting. Still deadlining. Still waiting for them to do something. Up on in. Control V. The Mariners have been more aggressive in going after Tim Anderson since Chicago is in fire sale mode. I think so. I think Tim Anderson makes a lot of sense as a Seattle Mariner. A massive upgrade of what they've gotten at second base. You could also, if it was a big deal, JP Crawford, I am sure, would play second base with Anderson at shortstop. That's honestly what I'd prefer. I think Anderson is a better defender there. And I think JP Crawford could be a really good defensive second baseman, even in the days of the limited shift. I do that a lot. I do the quotation. I keep my hands under my desk and I do the quotation mark. That does no good. Limited shift. I think Tim Anderson would have made a ton of sense. He's not signed to an exorbitant contract. He has a track record. He hasn't been good this year. There's no question about that. That skill set tends to deteriorate. Mariners would be just fine if Tim Anderson is just the player that he is right now. Nothing is going to destroy the Seattle Mariners bank account. We've got to stop that, folks. We've got to stop looking out for billionaires. They're going to be okay. The Seattle Mariners would be just fine with whatever they did. Josh Naylor scratch. That's injury. The Mets have traded Tommy Pham to Arizona. Easy joke about the fantasy baseball team. Now, this is interesting. Chris Cotillo, my buddy, we know each other a little bit. Colton Wong DFA'd by Mariners, and Red Sox may be trying to trade for him. Sources say it's crazy how it's either a player going to a team that they almost played for, or that they did play for, or it's somebody going to a team that just recently played for or against the team. And the Mariners are literally playing the Boston Red Sox right now. That's really interesting. I think Colton Wong is kind of makes sense for Boston. They have some middle infield issues. Trevor Story, no guarantee that he's coming back anytime soon. And Wong does have a track record. Maybe they see him as a bounce back candidate. I would be really curious to see. I'm guessing there's very little return here. especially because if Boston's willing to like pay for Colton Wong, the Mariners are going to be thrilled with that. And by the way, I just saw that trade. Alex Jackson, former Mariner legend, in change for Evan McKendry. Not even a challenge trade. It's just a this for that type of thing. Diamondbacks going for it. Really love that for them. I love it too. I will say I'm disappointed in the Andrew Chafin trade though. Like that, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do this and also trade Chafin, but you know, there's budgetary things. It's so frustrating. Be really curious to see what the return for Pham is. And boy, oh boy, are the Mets going to be horrible down the stretch. Horrible. That is a team that I will be looking. If you are a betting person, and again, we don't promote betting on this thing unless they pay us for it, but the Mets might be a team that you want to target if you're into that sort of thing. Was interested in the idea of Pham in Seattle. Yeah, me too. I think Pham would have made some sense. An upgrade over what they have in the outfield for sure. I'm guessing they're getting a decent prospect, and I just don't think Seattle wants to pay prospect prices right now. Let's see. Anything else going on? I think that the Michael Lorenzen trade is really interesting as well, because I think Lorenzen was somebody that Seattle did have some interest at one point in. Has had his best year, a former reliever, a guy who, you know, I guess some question marks about durability because this is his first time doing it for as long as he's done it in terms of the rotation. But I do think that he's going to be a solid option for Philadelphia. Tigers get a decent prospect back in Lee, more of a utility guy, but he could run. Flaherty to the O's, Rosenthal. That's a good one to have. Rosenthal is pretty darn good at this. I'll be very curious to see what that return is. This is fun. I love the trade deadline, folks. I get that a lot of people don't love this stuff. Mets get, by the way, Jeremy Rodriguez back, according to Joel Sherman. Very young shortstop, has some upside, but does not have a there's no way this guy's coming to help anytime soon. Guy's playing in the Jamaican Summer League right now, but an interesting little return that could pay off long term. So lots of things happening. Luis Patino traded to the White Sox for cash. Guy who I was a massive fan of not too long ago. I think that's a really interesting buy low option for Chicago. Would be more interested back in the day when Chicago was really good at developing pitchers, but not so much right now. We're getting some stuff done, folks. We're seeing it. Unless you're a fan of the Seattle Mariners. By the way, it looks like Trent Thornton is getting the call up as well. A guy the Mariners just acquired. Don't see who is being sent down in that. That'll be interesting to see for sure. Can I comment on the pitching matchup tonight? Yeah, it's a good one. Really good one. Two of my favorite young starters in baseball right now. If I have the pitching matchup right, it is Bryce Miller versus Brian Bayo, right? I love Brian Bayo. I've been really impressed with what he's done so far this year. Struggled last year, but put up monster numbers in the minors over the last couple of seasons. Really strong option. You know, when when Miller's on, he's looked phenomenal. There have been some clunkers. He's had some issues with command, not doing such a great job the second and third time through a lineup. But for the most part, I think this is a really strong matchup. We'll be looking forward to watching that one and recapping it, of course, as I recap every Seattle Mariner game on this here website. Somebody said, sounds like the Dodgers trying to make a move on Paxton. That's interesting. Good for James Paxton, man. Such a fun story to see him make that rebound. Former Mariner legend, not really legend, but very good. Let's see here. Sorry if it's too early for asking this. If Dipoto botches this deadline as he did this offseason, does that make his seat any warmer, or do you think he's well situated in Stanton's eyes? I think it's a little bit of both. He's really well situated. But if it was a freezing cold desk coming into the year, it's the Diet Coke that you had in the fridge for a while and you still take a drink of it and it's still cold, but it's not quite as cold as you would have liked it. And you got to go get some ice for it. And you don't like doing that because it waters down the drink. It's a weird little analogy I just made, but that's what I would say it is. Dipoto's not going anywhere, but there will be more pressure on him to have results in 2024 and in particular 2025. That's my guess. It does warm, but it's warm only because I don't know if it could get any colder after what happened with the postseason and the fact that Dipoto has built this great roster for them without spending his sweet, sweet money. It's warming up a little bit. It's warming up a little bit. Yeah, we just talked about that, Steven, but thank you. Red Sox trying to trade for Kolten Wong. That's really interesting. I would imagine that is the case where the Mariners don't get anything and just get that sweet cash back. It is what it is. It absolutely is what it is. I don't mind it because Kolten Wong shouldn't be on this roster. Kolten Wong should not be on this roster whatsoever. Let's see. Anything else going on? Again, guys, thank you so much for coming out and also helping me with all of these moves because it's hard to do both. It's hard to have both of those things. And yeah, as Lightning Bolt Dog points out, I kind of wish it was Stanton on the hot seat, even though it doesn't work like that. It sure doesn't. It sure doesn't. But it would be. Here's the thing. I've kind of talked about this before. One of the things that hurts the Mariners is not only is this a frugal ownership group, it's not just Stanton that's frugal. It is the fact that there are minority ownership groups just don't help at all. There just isn't that implementation. And what Stanton needs to do is be aggressive and get some guys who are into it, who are baseball fans, who want to see this team spend some money. All right. We're 5 minutes away, not less than that. We're 4 minutes away now. And again, and those of you who watch my videos a lot know that I say again an awful lot. But just because nothing comes across at 3:00 doesn't mean that a move isn't coming. It's not a great sign that nothing has happened yet, but you see every year deals get leaked at 15 minutes, half an hour, even an hour after that these deals get announced. So that is not something that you should completely panic over, but you can start getting concerned. You can get concerned. Haggerty, yes, has been playing well in the PCL. Makes sense as a bench option. Helped him last year at times. I'm not going too gaga over it. But I would imagine that you'll probably see Sam Haggerty, especially when they expand rosters, get a call up again. And I know a lot of people really like him. I like him because he has a dog named Manicotti, which is just an unbelievable good name. This is funny. I'm going to show both of these. Keenan Middleton, Mariners legend to the Yankees. Mariners legend Keenan Middleton to the Yankees purpose on. You guys now legally have to get married, by the way. Like, if you both are making that same joke at the same time, you guys are now best friends. You're going to have to go to theme parks together. You guys are going to have to update me on what you guys do. But you guys are best friends at the very least now. That's really funny. Nice little get for the Yankees to help that bullpen. I'd be so furious if I was a Yankees fan right now with how unaggressive they've been. But yeah, that's that's a long video that we're doing. I'm sorry, Dylan. That's just that's just the way it goes. Will Jake Shiner ever get a look? We talked about him a little bit earlier, and I'm not gonna get mad at anybody for repeating questions. I've been doing this for an hour now, and nobody's gonna know exactly what I was talking about here. But I do think he's going to get a look, and there are rumors that he is not traveling with the team in Tacoma. It could be part of a trade. It could be that he's going to get called up. I'm very curious to see. Either way, I think he's going to get a look like during September call-up time, especially if Ty France actually does get traded in the next Oh, I don't know, 20 seconds. But I do think they'll give him a look at some point. Just have to add him to the 40-man roster. Thank you for doing this and generally being a generally knowledgeable semi-insider that provides daily authentic comments. Thank you. Thank you guys. Like I really do appreciate this. It's I started this as something, that um and thank you, Dylan. I really appreciate you coming out. Hopefully we do see a buzzer beater. Um I started this after I lost my job at NBC. I thought it was a good idea. I thought it was a risk, but not a huge risk because it's not like these videos cost a bunch of money or anything like that. But I thought this could work. And so far it is. So far it is. Now, there's work to be done. I have to get to that 1,000 subscriber mark because that's the only way I can make money doing this. Unless I start a subscription thing, and I really don't want to do that. But I really appreciate all the support everybody's shown. It's been an absolute blast. And thank you again, Zach. Rodolfo Castro to Phillies for Bailey Falter. That's an interesting one. I kind of like that for the Pirates, or excuse me, the Phillies. Castro's shown some good moments to me, and Falter, as well, has had his decent moments as well. But if you're going to ask me which one I'd rather have, I think it's Castro. Organizational fit stuff aside, it's definitely something that I think I like for the Phillies quite a bit. See, staying put per Nightingale. While I wish it was a better source, I would have to say that makes sense because you could trade Dylan Cease in the offseason too. Now, there's no question that if you're willing to do it now, you're probably getting a higher return, right? Because you're getting these final few months and then what you're going to get for these next couple of seasons. But you're still going to get a hefty return if you deal Dylan Cease. Or you choose to say, hey, Dylan Cease, you're building around. You need your own radio show. Need more live shows like this one, please. I would love to do more live stuff. I think we will try to do more live stuff. I definitely will say this. If the Mariners make the postseason, I will be doing a live show every single game. I will be doing a live show during those games 100%. And if there's games where they're like in September, like a game back or something like that, we'll do some live stuff for that as well. I promise you I'll do that. And I'll try to do a few more live things, do some live stuff in the off season as well after trades and stuff like that. Cause they're going to happen, or you sure hope they're going to happen. Yeah. Thank you very much. And by the way, I went to school to do radio stuff. I did. I was at Clover Park Technical College on I-91 FM. You may have heard my voice at some point if you lived in the Tacoma area in the mid-aughts, me doing those shows. But yeah, I did. I would love to have my own radio show. That'd be an awful lot of fun. Yeah, so far, if there's no move made, this is a horrible, horrible deadline. Thank you, Chris. Your show is my morning coffee every day at 5 a.m. on my way to work. Thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate you cheered again. Flaherty return is Drew Rom and Cesar Prieto. That's not much, in my personal opinion. That's a really nice deal for them. Drew Rom was a guy who was close to a top 10 prospect for them at one point, but that farm system has been improved as much as anybody. So yeah, it's that's pretty easy deal for them. It's not a horrible deal for a guy you're not getting back, but it is an easy yes for Baltimore. Easy deal for Baltimore. If the Mariners make the playoffs, he was doing live shows. I'm so bummed because the Mariners, unfortunately, are not making the playoffs. Larry, it can still happen. It can still happen, Larry. There's plenty of time. They're only 5 games back in the division, Larry. You're probably right. You said you like Bliss as a prospect. Is 2024 as ETA, or will he get a September call-up? Is he a starting second baseman in 2024? If he smokes AAA pitching, and it's worth pointing out, he is not thus far. It's only been 13 games and 56 at bats, and it was a guy who was due. He's still hitting like 335 on the season. I think there's a chance if he destroys pitching in the PCL again, or starts to destroy, is what I meant to say. You could see him September. My guess is more May, June. I would be. This is tough. I would like to see him get that call up, especially if they're out of contention, to figure out if he is your second baseman. because it'd be really risky to just assume he's going to be the second baseman in 2024. But I do think he has the talent to be one. I absolutely think he has the talent to be one. Tapoto and Hollander attended the 5 a.m. midnight of Oppenheimer. Oh, Nick, that's really good. What's he say? I'm the bringer of death or whatever. That's the bringer of death of Deadline. By the way, haven't seen Oppenheimer yet. Have seen Barbie. Barbie is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Erod's reason for no trade was stay closer to family on the East Coast. With what he dealt with last year, it makes a lot of sense. 100%. And I'm privy to some stuff that's gone on with Erod, but not all of it. And it's just better to say that guy has every right to decline it, but it's still very fascinating to see him to understand and understandable at the same time that he wanted to stay where he is. I do not understand why a rental like Pham, Grichuk, Cron, or Kana was not acquired. The farm will still be okay. If you acquired one of these guys, am I crazy? No, you're not even kind of crazy. You're the opposite of crazy. You absolutely could have gotten these guys to make you better without destroying your farm system. Even moving guys that you can move guys that have no shot at being major leaguers for you in a couple of years. I just don't understand why they weren't more aggressive. And I guess I do. They really must not feel like that they were in this. And I hope I'm proven wrong in the next 5 minutes or so. We'll go for another 10 to see if something gets announced. And if another trade happens, I will absolutely do a video recap on that. But I really thought we'd be recapping a Teoscar Hernandez trade right now. I really thought we would, or a Ty France trade, or something. Tigers did not trade Eduardo Rodriguez. Sources tell The Athletic. Again, not surprising. Got to go back to my baseball list. By the way, I absolutely recommend having a baseball list. It is so much better than just following all of these writers and stuff like that. Create a list on whatever they call this website, but yeah. Bizardo sounds like the mentality of this organization. A little bit. Assuming this is it, how does Despoto spin a pretty awful deadline on the radio the next 2 weeks? Well, he's going to spin it well because, look, I don't hate Jerry Dipoto by any stretch of the imagination. Another phrase I say too much on this thing. I say again and stretch of the imagination too much. And if you guys can just like start finding me somehow for when I say those things too often, he spins things too much. He is too much of a mouthpiece for ownership. I hate it. I hate it. I hate that he can't be honest and just say we didn't feel like we were in position and we didn't want to spend money. Why can't they say that? We know why they can't say that. But it's extremely frustrating. And I guarantee you he will have some sort of spin and he will talk about how this deal he made actually did improve the club, yada, yada, yada. It'll be the same spin that he tried to give us with Tommy La Stella as your starting designated hitter to begin the year. I was literally standing 5 feet from him when he talked about that. And I ended up taking a selfie with him about 45 seconds later. So I'm a hypocrite, but yeah, he will spin this. There's no question about it. Those guys, Justin brings up, nobody has moved goalposts more than the Seattle Mariners. Nobody. I literally watched a video. All of us did. All of us Seattle Mariner fans did. That said that the goal for this year was to win the World Series. And instead, you're 4 games over 500, 3 games at the time of the trade, fair. 5 games out of a couple playoff spots, and you're trading your closer. Oh. I better hear something. I better hear something in the next 6 minutes. We really like the improvements Sam Haggerty has had, along with Didi Gregorius being can be just as good as Ted Lecter. Troy, perfect. That's 100% what we're going to hear. 100%. It's going to be maybe not those exact words, and it may be different players, but that's exactly what is going to happen. That's perfect. perfect. You guys are good at this, by the way. Like, I think I'm funny sometimes, but you guys are so much better. What are your thoughts on these trades? Just joined. Thank you so much for joining me, Rodney. It's been really interesting. I really like the Verlander trade for both sides. I will admit that the Houston Astros farm system is now, it was 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag. Now it's like 12 and a half to 15 pounds. It's really bad farm system. But I get it. You're in win now mode. You're getting an ace. You're getting a guy who's had success with you. Has been, after a rough start due to injuries, has been excellent as of late. I really like this move for them. I like the Phillies getting Michael Lorenz in. Tommy Pham makes an awful lot of sense for Arizona. It's kind of weird for a team that looked like they had an outfield logjam to get a guy like that, but a perfect platoon outfielder. It's been a fun deadline. I'm still looking for that big boy move or big person move. I'm sorry, but I'm just not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it yet. Again, hey, I said it again. Again. Uh, Lots of stuff will come linking in the next 5 minutes, I think. 5 to 10 minutes. After 3:30, I don't know. But, and again, I will absolutely do a video on whatever the heck they announce. I feel DePelto should do more. If he does not, he should shut his mouth about winning. I don't disagree. Juan Ten and Trammell to Tacoma. Interesting. Good to see those guys playing. I didn't know 110 was hey, Eugenio Suarez, as you walked to Scott's service, I'm still here. Yeah, no kidding. They weren't going to trade Eugenio Suarez. But yeah, 10 and Trammell heading back makes a lot of sense. Get those guys playing. If they're not going to be playing in Seattle, they need to be in Tacoma. Phil Bickford to the Mets. I think Bickford was designated for assignment, so this makes a lot of sense, I think. Reclamation type of thing, has had success. Marlins acquired Josh Bell. Okay. What a shock that Cleveland doesn't want to spend money. Oh, my goodness gracious. Now, look, Josh Bell hasn't been great. I really like that, though, for the Marlins. I love that the Marlins are trying. God bless them. Because they are look, they operate as a small market team. But good for their front office. Good for them for saying, hey, we see an opportunity with how mediocre the National League is outside of Atlanta to be a playoff team. That's phenomenal. Of course, they're trading Gene Segura in the return. It's a way for that makes perfect sense. Is Miami does a little cost cutting, or makes the Josh Bell contract not as big by moving a guy like Segura, and Cleveland, they save some money, and Segura can help them a little bit. The AL Central, by the way, what an absolute joke. What an absolute joke of division. Ban geography 2024. Get rid of divisions. Best 6 teams make the postseason. Blue Jays have nothing pending. They didn't get Teo. Yeah, well, they did get Paul DeJong, who is a decent little insurance for Bo Bichette, who got hurt. And if not, could be a nice little utility guy. Surprised they didn't go bigger. Wide open window. But, outside of Texas, by the way, somebody asked and I missed it, who I think the winner of this deadline is. I think it's without question Texas. Texas got so much better and was already good. Already a very strong baseball team, even with the injuries to DeGrom and to Seager. And you went out and you got better. You got an ace. You got a solid mid-rotation starter. You got a decent to sometimes very good Chris Stratton. Not a lot of consistency, but has shown flashes of being that guy. I think that they're the clear winners, and the clear losers right now for me are the Seattle Mariners. There's probably a more obvious answer for losers, maybe the Yankees. But you talk about what I was hoping for with Seattle, and look, as a fan, hopes and realistic, this in one hand, this in the other, see which one fills up first. I still think that they would be my clear loser. And it's 100% based on the fact that I have fan stuff. My wife just wanted to say, I always enjoy your streams. They are both fun and entertaining. Just kidding. You look and sound like an actual little idiot, and you sound should get a job. Oh no! Oh, it sounded like it was a good thing, and then it became a bad thing. Aw. Oh, dang, dude. You just dang duded me into oblivion. I wonder what idiot that person is, but I love you. And I hope you don't stub your toe. I wouldn't say Texas got all that much better. I mean, you got guys that are borderline washed. I don't agree with that. I think that there's risk with that. I'll pull the comment up just so that everybody knows what I'm talking about. I wouldn't say Texas got all better. I mean, they got guys that are borderline washed. I don't agree. I think that there is risk with Scherzer for sure, but I don't think he's anywhere close to washed. He's not the ace that he like the ace of ace that he once was. But there have been more than enough flashes, and also a motivated Max Scherzer is a scary, scary thing. A scary, scary thing, and I think he's going to be awfully motivated down the stretch. Jordan Montgomery is a really nice player. I really like what they did, but greater minds could disagree for sure. As you arrive left, I've been talking a lot. Can you guys tell? As you wrap up this live, I just wanted to say thanks for this, and now I'm off to listen to Softy rant. Going to look forward to that as well. Going to look forward to that as well. I'm just kind of waiting for some confirmation that Seattle didn't do anything. Oh, interesting that Khalil Watson is also in that trade. I just mentioned Khalil Watson on the RotoWire Fantasy Podcast as a guy that I'm not willing to give up on. The Marlins disagree. I think that he is still young. He's only 20 years old, one of the best prospects from that draft class, and has shown just enough flashes. I like that. I like that get for them for sure. It's kind of sad that they're selling when they're in the position that they are. Although I guess you can argue that Segura and Bell are relatively similar. But yeah, I think that's a really interesting trade. Really interesting trade. Well, I'm not seeing anything here for your Seattle Mariners, folks. Um, hey, real quick, could you guys hit like and if you haven't subscribed, please do that. But if you have subscribed, at least hit the like on this button. It really helps. It really helps with the old algorithms for people who are searching for stuff like this. I'd really appreciate it. Yeah, Mariners done per Salk. Nothing against Salk. I would like to hear from a more national guy. They're done, but Salk is certainly tied into the organization. So does sound like they're done. I will go on a little bit of a rant in about, I need to rest my voice in about an hour. Yeah, everybody has the right to be disappointed right now. And if there is a trade, I will record something. Uh Thank you, Autistic Horse. I really appreciate it. But I do consider myself true gentleman with strong morals. Perfect way to end this. But yeah, if you guys wouldn't mind hitting like, if you guys wouldn't mind hitting subscribe if you haven't done that, I really appreciate it. I will talk about how disappointed I am. Maybe I'll just wait until the Mile Y recap to do that as well. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. And if there is something, we'll get back to it. But dang. This was fun. Thanks again, guys.